Welcome, everyone. Continuing with the series specifically for engineering students and recent graduates, we'll hear executives and entrepreneurs in tech answer questions about decisions they made while they were studying in university as well as early in their careers. I am very excited to introduce today's guest, Dr. Harini Ravi. Harini is a scientist and senior director at the medical testing company Natera. Her area of expertise is product development for diagnostic testing, and she has been actively involved in bringing many products to market, ranging from diagnostic kits that detect food adulteration to genomic tests. Harini has an undergraduate degree, engineering degree in industrial biotechnology and a PhD in biochemistry from Brandeis. Welcome, Harini.
Hi, Sridhar. Pleasure to be on this podcast, and thanks for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for taking the time today, Harini. So, Harini, you went on to do a PhD after undergrad, right? Why PhD? Why not, maybe an MBA, for instance? What was your thought process when you decided to do this?
Sure. As you mentioned, my degree was in biotechnology, my undergrad degree. Mm-hmm. And it was a very new field, an upcoming field, especially in India. So there was not too much known about what future career opportunity, et cetera, were with a degree in biotechnology. So during my undergrad, I had seen my professors who all had PhDs. I had done a lot of internships where, be it in medical institutes or in companies, largely there were people going toward higher degrees after their, undergraduates, either in, biotechnology was still new, but biochemistry or microbiology or some biology degree, they did go ahead and get a higher degree, in their career paths. Sort of like a precedence is what my path was at that time. A lot of my seniors also had gone off to get a PhD, like a majority of my senior batches had gone to get a PhD. So for me, precedence was probably what I sought to follow. But one thing that was very clear to me was I wanted to continue in the biology line. I did want to pursue research. So that helped with this, decision process on, the next logical step, if I wanted to pursue in the biology field, was to get a higher degree, to pursue a PhD. Of course, I also had in that 4-year process through my internships understood that it was a long and laborious process. So better sooner rather than later was the choice at that point. So I decided to just go ahead and jump right into it after my undergrad.
Awesome. That makes sense. So looks like you were pretty clear about wanting to focus on biology and on research, and the path was pretty clear. And you saw a lot of precedents in terms of others that you respected at that point, right?
Yeah.
How would you advise a student go about this decisions today? For example, I did not have any, that much of a clear path about what I wanted to do after engineering, right? So let's say I were to come and ask you, should I study further? Should I go to work, or should I start something on my own? What would you advise me? Somebody who asks you a question like that, assuming I'm a 20-year-old, which I'm not, by the way.
Thanks for that clarification. But in general, I can go off just my personal experience itself. I think the starting point would be, did I like what I learned in the last 4 years? I mean, am I excited doing the same type of thing, staying in the same field, and moving in that direction for future? So I think that's the starting point. And then, so again, my personal example was, yes, I wanted to do things in the biology field. I mean, an engineering student might be, okay, I want to pursue in computers or in electronics engineering field or whatever it is. But then the next step there, in that framework could be, what are the career opportunities? If I know this is the area that excites me today. I know as a 20-year-old, that's not a solid choice, but at least today, with the information that I have now and the experience that I've, gained in the 4 years of learning similar things in undergrad, is this exciting to me? So yes, and then, focus on what are the options in such a career path. Again, if in my example, it was, I could become a researcher in a university, professor in a college, or join a biotech company, or, those were my options. So then the third step in that process could be like, from where I am right now, if one of those were my career paths, then, do I need more education? So do I get the next degree, or do I think that, if I was very clear that I wanted to join a biotech company, then maybe I would have said, okay, I will just, find my first job, my foot in the door there, and, try to get a work experience first and see if that takes me to my career path. Or if my decision option was, I really didn't think this was what I liked. I want to try something new, maybe, and that would have been the other option, like you said, start something new, or maybe get a degree in some other thing like an MBA or something like that, because I've still not figured out what my options are, but I know maybe this is not what I want to do. So for me, it starts with at least make a decision on, did I like what I do so far? Is this the path that I want to follow in? And then, just try to answer as many next step questions as possible in that line.
Makes sense. I think what I'm hearing you say is you have to start off with being very honest to yourself about whether you really like what you're doing or not. I think that's the first step. And after that, I think the rest of the steps are logical. Makes sense. So Harney, you are multilingual like I am, and English isn't your mother tongue at home. Though I'm sure at school and in university, it was a medium of instruction for you, right? Did you do something specific to improve your vocabulary, your speaking skills, your communication skills during the time you were in university, or even after that?
So, Sridhar, sorry, I actually unfortunately lost you a little bit. Can you repeat your last part of the question?
No worries. Sorry about that. I was just saying that English is not. You are multilingual, and English is not your mother tongue, just like it is for me.
Yes.
So I was curious to know if during the time you were at university, did you do something specific to improve your vocabulary? Did you to improve your speaking and writing and communication skills that could be applicable to students who are in university right now?
Yeah, sure. So I was very fortunate that my entire schooling was in English medium. So my language was not a constraint for me in university or beyond. So I didn't do anything special for that in college. I found comfortable, understanding plus communicating in English thanks to my schooling. So I think that helped quite a bit. But I do realize that in our college, as you are aware, the environment is very diverse. You have students of all sorts of backgrounds that come there, and I do realize that there might be individuals who don't have this background, and our English is not their first language, and also they've not had English as a medium of instruction in their schooling. But this is where I think the college as a community helps. I think the first level of support comes from fellow classmates who try to help people who are struggling just from an understanding perspective or trying to communicate perspective. But beyond that, the first level of support that the college community can itself offer, I'm pretty sure, especially right now, there is a lot of publicly available courses and material that people can jump into to enroll themselves into to learn more about how to help their communication skills, especially in English, better.
Got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I want to come back to one of the points you made in the answer to the first question, which is, you be honest with yourself about what did you like the first 4 years of undergrad, and making that as a starting point for a decision about what to do next, right? Mm-hmm. So as a student, often people feel that they do a bunch of things. They are interested in doing a bunch of things at the same time, in addition to academics, right? All of them are fun to do. And I remember the time I was in college when I was doing a bunch of different things, all within the sphere of college. But how do I find my specialization, right? How do I determine which skills are valuable, which skills are going to help me be part of the workforce, and which skills are the ones that I really need to focus and practice a lot more to get really much better at, as opposed to the skills that are fun to do, but really not going to be very practically useful?
Cool. So, honestly, I'd focus on the fun in undergrad. There is not much more time to do things just for fun. But then again, on a serious note here, there was a lot of opportunity for me to in college for organizing events. There were technical symposiums that I was very deeply involved in, from logistical planning and organization. I did a lot of MCing in college, and I took a lot of opportunity to MC, and that helped with talking in front of people and helping with on the spot communication and things like that. So here as well, I feel like there is some opportunity in every undergraduate time where people work together as a team, people do projects together, and again, it is some self-recognition of what is it that my soft skill strength is. You could, in a group setting, immediately recognize yourself as, I could explain things very well, so I can represent this group, and explain this out loud, or I am the problem solver. I might not be able to, communicate this, but I can work with the team to help them address this problem. So I guess, again, it's self-realization that someone's soft skill is something that they start to recognize. And maybe at that point is where they realize that is their strength. So it's not a one size fits all what is valuable. It is everybody's realization what they're good at. And then they need to nurture that. Find the opportunity that helps them develop that soft skill. Again, in my personal example, I did like to MC. So I found opportunities to see if I could, use that as a stepping stone to sort of public speaking or something like that. So something like that. So, recognize your own skill in a very normal, group project setting, and then try to find opportunity to sort of nurture that skill as you grow. And in one sense, I'm kind of going to turn this question around as well. There is no one skill that's valuable. I think somebody has to find the opportunity that makes their skill the unique thing that they bring to the table. So in every future career setting, the team of people that are working on anything will bring unique skills to the table. So, whatever is your strength, I think, as people grow in their career, they need to find the opportunity that their strength is the unique thing that they bring to that table. And I think that's where it becomes valuable. Whatever your skill set is, it is still valuable, but you find the opportunity where that becomes your unique contribution to any setting. So a bit of a twist on what you just asked me, but I think, again, it starts with recognizing what it is that one is, good at, and then kind of developing from there, moving forward.
I think that's an excellent point. I think if I were to summarize what you're saying be self-aware to know what is interesting and what you're good at, right?
Yeah.
And then nurture that in a very comfortable environment where you're with friends, people who will not judge you, but nurture that and practice that and be really better and better at that.
Yeah.
And then I think the great point you mentioned is in the rest of your career, in the future career, try to make that as your unique offering to that group. Absolutely. Which will make you stand out, because that is something that you can authentically bring to the group as
Absolutely. Well. Absolutely. That's
excellent.
Exactly. Yeah.
Excellent points. So sort of a related question. Let's assume that, I do something, I'm doing something right now and I enjoy doing it. It could be any one of these. It could be my subject of study. It could be emceeing. It could be anything else, right? But then in a few years from now, things change and I don't find it's as much fun as it was initially, right? How do you go about deciding whether to continue to do that and sort of push yourself hard and persevere, or say, you know what, I don't think I should push this any further, let me find something else to do, right? This could apply to any activity that you do, right? When do you decide to cut your losses and do something else as opposed to continuing to push hard even though you don't feel as much enjoyment as you did earlier?
Yeah, so my intuitive, in a heartbeat answer to this is stop and pivot. That is because for me, the crucial part that keeps anybody going in whatever they're doing is motivation. So the minute you realize you don't have that level of motivation to, get you up every day and do the thing that you've been doing all along, because for whatever reason, like you said, it just doesn't give me that excitement anymore. It's not fun anymore. I would stop and reevaluate and pivot. So that is my, again, intuitive answer. But of course, I'm saying this without other constraining factors, whatever somebody might have that, in some situations like finance, family, whatever it is, people might have to persevere and go forward. So I'm providing this input in the context that, assume those things are not existing, but it's just purely from your mindset standpoint on what you want to do and not want to do. My thinking there would be to stop, reevaluate what is it that keeps you motivated, and make a change. So to me, it's never too late to make that choice. I think I would rather try to, again, understand what motivates one from, what their interests are and what makes it fun for them, rather than trying to persevere something that you might not eventually be successful at. I think if we fix that core problem, once somebody realizes that is a problem, success is much easier. Everything becomes easier and your career path becomes clearer once you've identified what that path is. So yeah, I would pivot. I would stop and pivot. Again, the question to ask is, am I still motivated? And if the answer is no, then it's a point to understand what is it that will motivate me at this point, and do I change and find opportunities in that area.
Okay. I think that's a very valuable perspective to hear. What do you think about multi-year plans? When I say multi-year, what I mean is planning ahead a few years to figure out where you want to be and finding the connecting the dots between where you are now and where you are, 5 years from now, right? Does it even make sense for students who are in university or people who are early in their career, right? Should they go about coming up with a multi-year plan of this sort?
Yeah, that's actually a tough one. I mean, I'm suddenly thinking, what is my 5-year plan? Do I have any 5-year plan? It's always difficult. But in some sense, I think it is good to take a pause and make sure that, am I happy where I am right now? Am I on the right track to my next step? Do I understand what my next step is? And then, that's again, it is good to have a sort of quote unquote 5-year plan from that perspective. So I've said this earlier again in our conversation. So it starts from, am I excited with what I'm doing right now? So that's where the 5-year plan decision making process starts. And something that has helped me in the decision tree there is it is the intersection of what I am good at and what my interests are, and to focus on that intersection point. Those might not be the same things for a lot of people. There may be several things that somebody is interested in, and you would imagine that would be a great career choice or a path to go in. But it is very important to, at that point, recognize that, am I really good at getting to that point? So if not, what is that intersection point? So so once somebody focuses on that intersection points of, I'm good at this, and I'm also interested in this. So then what is my next step to move in that direction? And, can I get there? So it's sort of like not like a mantra, but, something that helps in that 5-year plan so that it doesn't sound so daunting. It is more simpler when you think about it as, am I happy where I am right now? What is it that I'm good at? And then is it something interesting that I'm also good at? If not, what is that intersection point and how do I get there? So yeah, I think it is good to keep thinking about this, not in a very serious sense, especially like right after undergrad, but I feel like, there is still a lot of opportunity. Things are open and, you can go in one path and try to pivot and it's all okay. But, in some sense, just try to get that feeling of, okay, where is this going, might be useful. So some input there is, yeah, again, come back to your introspective nature.
Good points.
Yeah.
Are there courses or topics from university, undergrad or even postgrad in your PhD that you really find useful and applicable in your everyday work? Or put a little differently, right? Are there some courses or subjects that you think are important for all students to learn well? When I say all students, I mean anybody who's studying, independent of whether it's engineering or whatever. These are useful skills or useful courses that they will apply no matter what field they're in.
For me, hands down, it was the practical training. So the Anna University's biotech program offered a lot of practical training. So, 3 out of 4 summers, I was in several labs in other places outside of, the college itself, getting practical training. And 6 months of the final semester was all industrial training. And I think nothing comes even, remotely close to doing practical training while in undergrad. All of the coursework might offer, this is the broad spectrum of things that are available to choose from in terms of going into the future, but the practical training puts the perspective on it. So I would put a lot of weight on how one chooses to go about doing that practical training, picking where to do that practical training and getting that sort of input.
Got it. So what I'm hearing you say is the practical training, or as they call it, internships in the US, is perhaps the very, very valuable part that you found very useful. I think I might have lost you briefly, but I'll just repeat that. I think what I heard you say is the internship / practical training was the very useful part of the the thing that you found the most useful that you would definitely recommend that everybody should put a lot of thought into what they exactly do?
Correct. Yeah, I think that puts that practical perspective on it, on what it means in reality, more than any coursework can ever offer. So I would put a lot of weight on that. That's key. Even if, the program doesn't offer practical training, I did some just of my own interest. One of the summers we didn't have to do any practical training, but we had labs in Taramani. Anna University had its own labs there, so we just went and got some me and some of my friends just got exposure to what it is to actually work in a lab, which is very important to understand as somebody who wants to pursue something in biology and do research and things like that. So practical training was very, very key. I think I would put that on top of all the coursework. For sure. And some of the coursework is very generic too. So, if you want more specifics, then I think finding some practical opportunity to pursue that is key.
Makes sense. All right. Moving on from university and undergrad and postgrad, I have a question that is more focused towards young professionals, people who are early in their careers, right? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts about money and finances at this stage in one's career? Right. And in your specific example, to the extent you're comfortable sharing, right? Did you save your money? Did you invest your earnings? Again, this is not financial advice, but the audience should do their own research. But we'd love to hear your perspective on how you thought about money at that stage.
Sure. So, I wish there was more education on this throughout schooling or undergrad or whatever. I don't think none of us got any formal education on how to manage your money once you start, earning by yourself. Mm-hmm. For me, of course, my first step was getting a PhD, and that was more like, I was still a graduate student on, some smaller level of income at that point. So sure, I was very conscious about what my capabilities were, my limits were, and saving and all of that. But I was clueless about investing and growing the money, and mm-hmm. I never did it. And I regret that actually, because I wish there was some education about it, but I didn't have any. But I think that would be my advice. I mean, start early, and it's really important when one has the initial flexibility with their first types of incomes that they are earning, with maybe fewer constraints that they have with that level of income that they need to, use in to have at least an understanding, to at least make a choice that they can invest or not, and things like that. Of course, I didn't do it, and I would very strongly recommend people to start as early as they can, in managing and investing. And if there is any opportunity to talk to people and understand what they can do, I would absolutely encourage them to do that.
Absolutely. I think it makes sense also because time is your biggest ally at that point. Because the earlier you invest, the more gains you get over time. Yeah. Makes sense. All right. I think we're coming to the last set of questions. This one is related to, balancing your work and one's good health, right? In this digital age with COVID, with more of us working from home all the time, it's getting more and more difficult to balance this. Mm-hmm. Have you, how do you do this? Do you have any tips or personal productivity hacks, if I can call it that work well for you that you could share?
Sure. So for me, I've told myself, it's a mental trick that there is a lot of time that we save in commute and other things right now with the flexibility to work from home. So kind of using that overhead time for my own self, for mental health or physical health, and being more regular about physical exercise has actually been useful in the COVID era, where there is this overhead time that can be used for more personal well-being. So that's been my little bit of a mental trick, and I honestly would say that this flexible environment has opened up a lot of that opportunity, because right now there is, again, just not even the overhead of having to commute or the flexibility to choose when you want to go to work right now. Unfortunately, I am able to work from home, so thanks to that. But also the availability of things that you can do in terms of online classes. Like, there is no need for the overhead to go to a yoga class. There is no need for an overhead to go to a gym. You can buy equipment, you can sign up for on-demand things. And Those are things that have opened up the opportunity to as encouragement for people to, be more aware and find the time to, on a daily basis, even do something that will keep them mentally and physically fit. I do on a regular basis do things to keep myself physically fit, and I hope I continue to do that. And sort of the times that have opened up to do that is my little piece of encouragement to keep that going.
Great. It's great to hear that you're actually utilizing one of the the benefits of working from home, which is the lack of commute, to your advantage in this particular case. I think.
Yeah, and things that are available on demand as well, right? You don't have to go to a class if you do. If you choose to, you can just get it online as well, and that also saves a lot of overhead, and it gets out of that inertia to pick up and go somewhere and do something. It's more available, so make use of that opportunity is what I would like to say.
The one thing I'm taking away from this is I don't have any more excuses not to exercise. But anyway, all right. Finally, let's just wrap up with some rapid fire questions. These are mostly fun questions, and think of something that you can answer in 10 to 15 seconds for each of these. Of course, take more time if you need to, but I'm just saying these are just small fun questions.
Sure.
Can you name a book or a TV show or maybe a podcast that completely changed the way you think?
I'm really, honestly, nothing has changed my thinking in terms of a book or a TV show. I'm not a big motivational reader, but there's this really small book that immediately comes to my mind. It's called Jonathan Livingston Siegel. And one of our common friends, I'm sure, introduced me to this book. It's a small book that you can read in 10 minutes, but it's super motivational. When you're down, it keeps you going. So that kind of a book, I think about that book whenever it is, I need a little bit of an extra motivation.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
What was your best career move? And if you feel comfortable sharing, your biggest career mistake?
Oh, my best career move is right after my PhD, I decided I was not going to go in the academia line. I wanted to go and work in a biotech industry. Again, this is where, I did realize that academia was not my cup of tea, and going into more of an industry corporate type career path was what would work for me. And I'm super happy with that path. And I think that has helped me, in my growth as well. My biggest mistake, I hope I haven't made too many yet, but one thing that I worry about is I have, become too focused or specialized in one area. So I'm not broad enough that, as I keep, growing in my career, I don't have the breadth of skill set to explore new things. So I'm kind of too focused on one area of specialization is what I worry about. I don't know if that's necessarily a mistake, but I've kind of pushed myself into a little bit of a smaller specialization window is what I would say.
I think it aligns very well with your initial thought, which is you are self-reflecting a lot. So I think it's not a mistake, it's more self-realization that you have.
Probably. Probably not a mistake. Probably this is still okay. But yeah, that comes to mind when I think about, what I could have done differently.
True. All right. And the last question is, if you could go back in time and meet your 20-year-old self and just tell the 20-year-old self one sentence, what would you say?
I would totally say, don't stress about that decision when you're making at 20. It is not the end of the world. I think a lot of people stress. I mean, not even the 20-year-old self. When we were writing our board exams and trying to get into a college, it was still like, oh, this is like the be all and end all of it. And no, none of that. I think make a decision that is best based on the information you have at that point, and just don't stress that that's the end of the world.
It was a pleasure talking to you today, Harini, and thank you for taking the time.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here, and really nice chatting with you too, Sridhar.
Same here, Harney.
Yeah.